The end of U.S. tech supremacy, from monopoly to multipolarity. 1. Introduction, a shifting center of gravity. For decades, the United States stood unchallenged as the epicenter of global technology. Its universities trained the world's brightest minds, its corporations pioneered the digital age, and its infrastructure became the backbone of everything from cloud computing to artificial intelligence. The U.S. didn't just lead, it defined the future. But that supremacy is no longer guaranteed. China, long viewed as a manufacturing powerhouse but a technological follower, has transformed itself into a formidable tech innovator. Nowhere is this more evident than in the battle for AI and semiconductors, where companies like Huawei are rising not just in defiance of U.S. sanctions, but as serious contenders to legacy American giants like NVIDIA, Google, and Apple. The world is watching a strategic decoupling unfold, not only in products and platforms, but in entire technological ecosystems. What we're witnessing is not just competition, it's a transition from a unipolar digital order to a multipolar one. 2. The foundations of U.S. tech supremacy. The U.S.'s dominance was never accidental. It was the result of a unique confluence of structural advantages. Top-tier universities like MIT and Stanford seeded talent and innovation. A vibrant venture capital ecosystem turned ideas into billion-dollar companies. A strong culture of entrepreneurship and risk-taking enabled the rapid scaling of tech startups into global monopolies. Access to a massive internal consumer market created fertile ground for testing and adoption. Government-funded R&D through agencies like DARPA provided foundational breakthroughs, including the Internet itself. This combination created a self-reinforcing feedback loop: talent, innovation, market dominance, profits, reinvestment, more innovation. The rest of the world had universities, but they didn't have this complete ecosystem, what we've called the fertile soil needed for tech supremacy. 3. China's strategic response. Huawei as a symbol. When the U.S. blacklisted Huawei, many analysts predicted its collapse. Denied access to semiconductors, Android, and U.S. components, the company seemed destined for irrelevance. Instead, Huawei adapted. It developed its own operating system, Harmony. It accelerated investment in domestic chip development, culminating in the Ascend 910C, an AI chip now being compared to NVIDIA's H100. It deepened ties with local tech giants like ByteDance and Xiaomi, gaining market momentum at home even as it lost access abroad. Far from collapsing, Huawei is now thriving in a parallel ecosystem, one increasingly independent from the West. Its rebound underscores China's larger strategy: technological self-sufficiency not as a defensive posture, but as a strategic doctrine. 4. The self-reinforcing value pyramid, U.S. versus China. The self-reinforcing value pyramid of AI elegantly captures how national dominance in AI, and by extension tech, is built layer by layer. 1. Energy and infrastructure, data centers, fiber networks, electricity. 2. Semiconductors, the computational engines powering all AI. 3. Cloud and compute, access to scale, data storage, and AI workloads. 4. Algorithms and talent, research institutions and skilled developers. 5. Applications and products, commercial services, platforms, and economic adoption. For decades, only the U.S. had this pyramid in full, but China has been assembling its own, with state subsidies, private innovation, and a growing domestic market as fuel. The pyramid is now duplicated, not perfectly, but functionally. This content is brought to you by Bobby Giggs. Promote your brand here and reach a wide audience across platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow the links in the description to get started. 5. Market share as strategic leverage. In the global tech arena, market share isn't just a financial metric. It's a form of strategic leverage. Every product sold, every ecosystem adopted, strengthens a country's grip on future innovation and control. Consider this. When Huawei captures smartphone market share in Asia, Africa, or Latin America, it's not just selling hardware, it's establishing an operating system, a cloud backend, a chip architecture, and even data flows that become permanent infrastructure. When NVIDIA loses Chinese customers to domestically produced chips like the Ascend 910C, it doesn't just lose revenue. It loses data pipelines for training models, Enterprise integration opportunities, a foothold in one of the largest AI markets in the world. And once a market shifts, it rarely swings back. Tech ecosystems are sticky. Developers, enterprises, and consumers build around what's available, and migrating away is costly. Thus, every inch of lost ground isn't just a temporary sales dip, it's a structural reallocation of influence in the global tech pyramid. 6. From volatility to structure, a geopolitical tech realignment. There was a time when poor quarterly earnings or policy changes were just bumps in the road for big tech. But now, volatility has given way to something more enduring: structural realignment. The U.S. is increasing regulation on homegrown giants, Meta, Google, Apple, introducing uncertainty and eroding market confidence. China, meanwhile, is actively subsidizing domestic champions, shielding them from external shocks, while rapidly expanding into strategic verticals like AI chips, cloud, and telecoms. Global consumers, particularly in the global south, are increasingly choosing Chinese alternatives that offer comparable quality at half the cost, without the perceived strings attached to U.S. platforms. This isn't a war over product lines. It's a reconfiguration of the global tech supply chain and a realignment of national digital sovereignty. The trust factor that once gave the U.S. a soft power advantage in tech is no longer absolute. While Europe and India still lean west, they are hedging, developing their own data laws, cloud rules, and partnerships with Chinese firms when it serves their interests. The emergence of a multipolar tech order. What we're witnessing is the erosion of a monopoly, not its sudden collapse. The future of global technology will likely not be defined by a single dominant superpower, but by a multipolar order, where the U.S. leads in foundational AI research, open source models, cloud services, and ecosystem maturity. China dominates in deployment scale, infrastructure hardware, government-coordinated strategy, and fast adoption consumer markets. Other nations, like India, South Korea, and the EU, carve out their own spheres by specializing in edge AI, regulation leadership, or democratic-aligned alternatives. The competition will no longer be about who has the best chip or fastest model, but about who controls the stack at the national or regional level. 8. Conclusion. What comes after supremacy? The end of U.S. tech supremacy doesn't mean American tech is obsolete. Far from it. But it does signal the end of uncontested dominance. For the U.S., the path forward requires doubling down on innovation through open research and industrial partnerships, rebuilding trust in global markets through transparency, collaboration, and ethical leadership, reclaiming strategic sectors like semiconductors and energy through long-term investment. For China, it means continuing to close the quality gap in software and chips, scaling production and adoption across the global south, avoiding overreach that could trigger backlash or realign trust toward the West. For everyone else, it means navigating a new world, one where no single platform, chip, or ideology will dominate, but where alignment, resilience, and adaptability will be the new keys to power.